Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you're listening to this audio, I just want you to be having one of the best moments of your life because today we're going to talk about something a little bit more heavy than our normal zenful way of corresponding with one another. Today we're going to talk about hurt and pain. And it's not the typical adulting hurt and pain that you might think of. It's more of the hurt and pain that affects adulting when you get to this point in life. So, to get to the point, when I was 9 years old, I was molested, and I'm a natural born Taurus, so I'm not using my zodiac as an excuse, but I noticed it has been a prime thing in my characteristics or my personality that has caused me to behave and carry on the way that I do. So I was molested at 9, and I kept it a secret for 20 years. I didn't tell my mother, my father, a sibling, no one for 20 years. And then I told a few close friends about it when I was in college. But one thing I can remember about me, I never told female friends that I was molested. It was mostly male friends that I felt close to, that I spoke with, and I was molested by a male, not a female. So it wasn't like a trust issue. It was just, I don't know, maybe the way I witness friendships amongst females, for one reason or another, I couldn't share it with a female. But I finally ended up sharing it with my mother on my 29th birthday, as we were returning from my graduation, because I was graduating with my master's degree. And I told her in the car, but I still reflect on that moment and think to myself, if there's any way that I can share my story with someone to tell them or help them understand that you're not alone in these situations. I think more trauma is experienced when we keep this stuff a secret or to ourselves than when we actually speak on it as it has happened. Now, I won't lie, there are some of us, I'm one of them, who don't have that much support in the family structure. So it would be hard to find someone to confide in where you would feel safe. And then there's some of us, we carry certain notations about us. Either you're the black sheep, or everyone knows you're always exaggerating or fibbing as a child, and it would be hard for someone to believe what you're saying. So all that comes into play. But the one thing I will say is, no matter what your situation is, holding on to that event for an extended period of time causes you to have to exist in that moment for such a long period of time. Because I'll give you an example. This was in 2012 when I told my mother, that 20 years ago something very bad happened. And we're in 2019. And for the past 4 odd years, I have been going through this process that I can't explain. I'm someone who was very traumatized as a child. As a young person, I would say my day-to-day, about 80% of it was filled with trauma. And I used to cope, like I sincerely used to cope. I don't even remember or know how I did it. But something inside of me, naturally, innately born, knew survive, get through the next day, get through the next month, get through the next year. Hey, you're 11, you're gonna make it to 12, it's okay, we're gonna get through this. But it's like, now as an adult, and I was actually speaking with someone about this, and we even came to the conclusion maybe it's the socioeconomic properties that are not being matched. if that makes sense. As a child, all your needs are met, but as an adult, you have to meet your needs. So if you have unresolved issues that you're dealing with that are not related to the present time, that are either future or past related, then we have a gap in your experience, and that's going to create more and more situations where you're feeling lost in a way, or you're feeling weakened in a way, because that which you're fighting or dealing with is not something of present value. It's something of future or past value. So you really can't pin it down and deal with it, which is, now talking out loud, I realized why as a child I felt stronger with the situations that I was fighting. Because as a child, you're, regardless of what it is, it could be peer pressure, it could be, normal teenage issues, you're dealing with it as it's coming. You go to school, you get bullied, you deal with it there. You go to school and the popular girls say whatever they want to you, you deal with those emotions right here and there. But as an adult, you're left to deal with your current situation, whatever it may be, whatever past trauma that you haven't dealt with, and then the worrying about the future. So now it's like, it's crazy. Now that you think about it, you're in three places at one time. So of course, being in three places at once, you would feel weaker than normal. Like you would feel as if you're not handling situations as they arise, but in actuality, you are doing more than handling situations as they arise, because you're not only handling present situations as they arise, but you're handling past and future situations. But to cut the ranting off, what I realized was, if you hold on to these events, they mold who you become. They mold what you experience. They mold who you encounter. And at that point, you're not living your life anymore. You're living the life of that experience. Regardless if your experience that changed the direction of your life was something similar to mine, being molested or being abused or being put down verbally, whatever it is, that you can remember who you were as a child prior to this event happening. There's something I've been doing within myself where it's like I keep regressing back just to check on myself to see if what I'm thinking is true. And I've come to find out it is true, because I'll keep regressing myself back. And when I get to that year, not even that day, that era, not even close to that period where I could say, okay, it's the month of May of this year or the month of February of, no. When I get to the age of 9, I get so nervous and anxious, because I guess knowing that if you regress back to 15 and you went through the ugly duckling phase and you knew, like, oh gosh, like walking through your life, you would be like, oh gosh, like this is the period where the swans are gonna come out, and you can watch all that event happen. That's the same situation. Like you get to the age or the period, the time frame where the trauma was experienced, and it's kind of like a horror movie where you're just like, oh boy, this is where the killer jumps out of the closet and attacks. But because you've already lived it, it's like rewatching a horror movie. Because you've already lived it, it's like you're prepared in a way. You're anxious for what's about to happen. And it's not a situation where you're anxious about what's about to happen and it's not going to happen. It's going to happen like clockwork. And what I've done I've done these exercises of regressing back. I actually, initially, I will not lie. Initially, when I tried to regress back, I had to go around that entire month. Because my memories were coming back. I can remember December going backwards, December, November, October, back to the summer, the mid of spring, beginning of spring. And then I get close and close and close to that period, and boom, I shut down. And my shutdown is not even mental. I shut down in the physical world as well. Like, I completely shut down. And that forced me to understand how deeply traumatized and hurt I was from that experience, and the kind of work that needed to be done. Now, I will not lie. When I first started doing these experiments on myself, I would get so re-traumatized, that I would be in a state of psychosis where I'd just be talking. Like, I'd be on the phone with family members or friends, and I'm conscious or aware of myself, and my mouth is just running. I'm just talking. And it's kind of like I'm terrified within myself. But I know that the real world is not what I'm experiencing. So in a way, it's like trying to grapple or grab at friends and families in the three-dimensional world that is outside of your world, because within your world it's so terrifying, you don't know what to do, and you sound like far gone in the real world when you're trying to express to them what's going on within you. But then it wasn't until I had this very in-depth conversation with one of my siblings where I was told that I have an anger, I'm an angry person. And I had to sit back and think about it. Like, that's not who I want to be. I do not want to be an angry person. And I had to realize, like, every time I expressed extreme anger, it was literally when I was back in the horror movie of my life, the horror movie of my mind's eye, and I was trying to grab at someone to help me get out, but they don't know what I'm going through. So it's so crazy when you think about it. When you first start studying spirituality, you kind of feel like, is everyone's mind a prison in a way? You know, like, is everyone in their own little prison cell and we're just creating our own little things? But it's not until you start re-evaluating your life and you start getting past the pure, exciting, happy moments, and you start seeing the trauma for what it is, because it's not present, but it becomes like one of those crazy carnivals, like one of those scary carnivals that you've attended, and everything's grabbing at you and reaching for you, and you don't know what to do with yourself. But it's just, I think, coming to the realization that I'm not here at this carnival per se because I enjoy being frightened. I'm here to learn something about myself. So I've re-entered this realm within myself that I thought was healed, that I thought was forgiven, that I thought I'd move on from. Not because I enjoy being frightened, but because I need to heal fully in order to realize who I am. Because this journey to yourself, it really takes you on spirals if you're not careful. If you haven't done the work to heal yourself, you will be taken for a ride. And it's yourself, it's you. It's your subconscious, or your I, or your spirit, your soul, whatever it is that you call yourself. It's you. Every aspect of yourself, every experience that you've ever had, you are like repeating them, not in the physical, but in the mental, and you're reacting to them emotionally, which then can put a stop to the progress that you were trying to do. So for me, it was that, having gone through that and then not processing everything, because I pretty much went through it. And I remember I went through it. I was shocked for like the first maybe 15-30 minutes, and the survivor in me at that time pushed it to the side, and I kept going with my life. And it wasn't until at a happy moment in my life that came back up. So that's something to think about. When these traumas return, is it something that you're enjoying in your life that's triggering it, or is it something that you're pushing away that's triggering it? That is deep to think about. But it was something happy for me. I was actually experiencing something that no one else in my family had done before. I was the first to do something. And so then that came about. That I had that little moment of humming because I thought about something. But this video is becoming a rant, and I didn't want it to be that. So I'm going to post it because I feel that if someone can hear through all my ranting what I'm trying to say, you can help yourself. Because a lot of the things we go through that we try to get therapy for, we try to take medicine for, we try to drink, do drugs, talk to friends and family, whatever it is that you try to do to cope with your life experience. I think from my own personal experience, if we actually stop for a moment and acknowledge ourselves, we will realize that, for me, I'll use myself. I experienced this at the age of 9. And for the longest, since 2008, I started introducing myself to colorology and numerology. And then in 2010, I got real serious about the chakra system and spiritual work. And I noticed that whenever I'm calm and these traumatic thoughts appear, they don't appear as they normally would, which is like a flush of thoughts and light and chaos. But the traumatic memory appears as my 9-year-old self taking my hands, my present hands, and us walking into like what I would say would be like a white light. Like I'll be sitting on the couch watching television, and then in my mind's eye, I will see myself, my 9-year-old self, who experienced the trauma, come out of a white light, grab my hand. I'll get up from the couch and I'll join her on this walk back into this white light. And then my conscious mind and my subconscious mind detach, I guess, separate. And then I start doing the work. And by the time I come back into my reality, if I've done the work right, I feel great. If I haven't, I go numb because I'm like, oh, I need to go back and finish this. But I'm conscious that that's the way that I've been working with myself. It's not something that I force. It happens here and there. It has actually happened at work several times. So it's something that deep down inside, I'm trying to heal from. I'm going to heal from. So to help anyone out there, whatever it is that you have gone through that has you stuck, and that's not a good feeling. That is one of the most scariest, loneliest, horrible feelings in the world, to be so stuck. So whatever it is that might have you so stuck in life, if it's from the past, if you have that ability, give yourself the chance to process it and heal. And this is not something that's going to happen in a day or two, or this is something where initially when you first acknowledge the situation, it might become a frontal lobe process, but then it goes back to the back of your consciousness and it just becomes a part of you, where some days you think about it, some days you don't, until finally you've healed and it's gone. And it's not that it disappeared or it's gone, it's just the trauma, the emotional attachments to that event are gone. So I hope this helps. I really do hope this helps someone. Love yourself. Don't judge yourself so much. And believe it or not, you're doing everything that you can to protect yourself. Believe it or not. No matter what the situation is, you're doing it. So I wish you all a great afternoon, great morning, great evening. I did it in a chaotic way to match everything I talked about. So enjoy your time. We will talk again soon. And I will try to come back on this subject, but to do it in a more linear way, because I feel like I ranted a lot. But I hope you get what I'm trying to say. Alrighty, enjoy.